Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Razorpay X SHRM webcast. How can CHROs impact business efficiency with payroll management? My name is Sadaf, and I am your host for today, also going to moderate today's panel discussion. Now, all of you know that we have attendees who have joined us from different places, and upon completion of this webcast, each of the attendee is going to get a complimentary copy of the Payroll Maturity Index 2023 report, along with 1 credit point towards their SHRM recertification and certification. Now, friends, as professionals, we all know that payroll management is a high inertia and a low involvement category, which tends to operate in the background of most organizations. It goes without saying that a healthy payroll department is fundamental to helping the wider organization meet its business outcomes effectively. Now, to address these issues, we have a very eminent panel with us who are going to share their views on payroll management, latest tools and technology, and most importantly, about payroll maturity. Now, I would now like to invite Mr. Ayush, who is the Vice President and General Manager, to take the center stage and also set the context for this webcast. Over to you, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Is it working? Yes. Hi. Hi, everyone. Good morning and welcome to our big unveil today. We are revealing this payroll maturity index report today, and we are very excited to do it. But before we do that, we want to take you through a Razorpay's journey a little bit, like what is the context of what we are doing and why we are doing it. So Razorpay started about 8 years back. The objective of the vision for us was to solve end-to-end money movement for businesses. So we ended up building tools like the payment collection tools, the POS devices, the vendor payments, etc. In that journey, when we were going through that money movement solution for businesses and in our own journey, what we realized is the people is a core of most of the businesses. And the payroll holds like more than 40% in some of the cases as part of the money movement, right? So it became important for us to look at that space, and that's where we started investing in. When we are looking at that and we are talking to a lot of businesses, we found that more than 90% of business actually think that this is underserved, right? Why do we say it is underserved? So a lot of businesses, leaders out there, we work with more than 1 million business on the Razorpay payment gateway side. When we were doing some sort of understanding with them, we realized that most of these business feel that payroll, unfortunately, is a cost center for business. Payroll is looked at as a hygiene and not a best case of people practice, right? So there was a lot of space for us to innovate. It became natural for us to go in that direction and understand this a little bit more. Today, this world is changing. It is moving towards, businesses are becoming more and more focused towards a financial well-being, a compliance well-being, and more importantly, people well-being. In that space, it was important for us to understand what we are not doing well. But the biggest gap was understanding where am I in that journey. So if there's no standard benchmark which is existing out there, which can tell me what do I need to do, how am I doing it, and what needs to change, and who can help, right? So that prompted us to invest in something called Payroll Maturity Index report, and which is what we are unveiling today. But first, let's understand a little bit of more context on what this report is about. So how we ended up building this report, we spoke to more than 160 CHROs across different industries. And these are ranging from retail, BFSI, manufacturing, healthcare. These are the top leaders in the respective respective industries. And these are businesses who are lying anywhere between 500 to 5,000 plus employee companies. When we were speaking to them and when we started creating this report, we discovered something very interesting, which was paradox of payroll maturity, right? Uh, what it stands for is, so couple of questions out of that report. One is, how satisfied you are with your payroll tool today. More than 80% of businesses, CHRO said, yes, they are pretty satisfied. But there was another question, we flipped it around and we asked it very smartly. We asked that, if given a choice, would you want to upgrade your payroll tool? And more than 70% of the CHRO said yes, they want to upgrade the payroll tool. So this clearly shows there's a strong need, and we are definitely settling for less, right? But what exactly are the gaps today? So gaps can be categorized into like 4 buckets. It can be like salary delays, information is misrecorded, or there's a compliance issues. But more than 90% of these CHROs feel there's something wrong and something needs to be fixed in the auditing process, right? This can range from anything between data, how the data is recorded, how this data is being interpreted. Do you have an audit log in your systems? Do you have like, what are the timely filing of PF, TDS you are doing? And all of this adds up because at some stage your company is going to go through an audit process, right? And if this payroll as a process and tool is overlooked, it is going to come back and become a question for us to solve, right? So yeah, this number was fascinating for us. 90% of CHROs felt that this needs to be improved. The other like key pillars, key enablers that we identified through the report were like performance, technical, and user delight. While the performance and technical is fairly common, I think we commonly go out and keep investing in performance and the technical ones. The user delight or the people side of it is becoming more and more popular recently. So you would want to keep investing in your people practices, in the right set of tools that you're using. How can you generate a delight for them so that these people, these employees can go out and become a promoter for you and become a culture ambassador for you. Let's just look at how the payment maturity index looks like. So we classified business through this report into 4 different payment maturity stages. These are nascent, emergent, progressive, and advanced. As you can tell from the report, more than like about 70% of the businesses are lying in the first 2 buckets, right? What it means is there's a significant opportunity for us to upgrade. And I think we all would love to see us moving towards the later 2 buckets, right? But how is this report essentially calculated, right? Like I think you might be curious about how the report looks like, and as a user, how can I use this report? So we have more than 26 parameters, which are again bucketed across the 3 enablers that we showed in the previous slide. And these 26 parameters would be bucketed against how the industry best are doing, and where is your score. So it's going to look like something like this, which is 26 parameters are there, and these 4 milestones that you can see, these are the different payment maturity stages. And the broken line that you can see, this is where you are going to lie to, right? So yeah, I mean, this is how the report is going to look like for all of us. I'm very excited to see that how this report sort of is used by all of us. It's also going to give us very interestingly on the areas to improve on. So let's say if compliance comes out as one of the call out and I'm lying somewhere on nascent bucket, it is going to tell me what needs to change in the compliance bucket and where do I need to invest in to become better and move towards advance in the compliance bucket. So yeah, this QR code is going to help you to scan through and take an assessment for yourself. And I'm excited to do this. But first, I would like to thank these 160 plus CHROs who actually became a part of this journey and helped us create this IP of ours. And I can't wait to see that what learnings we can get from this maturity index report and like how it helps us move forward towards overall payroll maturity, right? So thank you. So here's the launch of it. I again thank you all of you to coming for this event. And I would like to invite Bhanu, who is our CHRO, to unveil the report for all of us.
Thank you. All right, so here goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Banu. Maybe you can stay back. I think I'll invite the panelists, and we have a very interesting group discussion line up next. So over to you, Banu, and I can invite you, Subha, back.
So for the participants who are connected through the webcast, if you have any question, answers, or any kind of responses, or any suggestions or inputs, please feel free to use the chat window. Thank you for your patience. I now would request all our esteemed panel members to come onto the stage for the panel discussion, please. A big round of applause for our panel members, please. Thank you so much. So without wasting any more time, I know you are keen to gather some good thoughts about payroll management. And my first question is for Asha, who is the CHR of Suvex. And Asha, as you know that, compliance with tax laws and regulations is a critical aspect of payroll processing. However, according to our survey, 42% of the organizations are struggling with compliance issues. So how does your organization, we know it's a telecom AI solution-based companies, which is enabling communication service providers, CSPs as you call it, across the globe to create connected experience for their customers. So what are your thoughts around this, Asha, please?
Good morning, everybody. Okay, usually HR folks are called for leadership talks in different forums or training and development, employee welfare, or maybe employee life cycle. Suddenly Nikita came back and told us that we will have a discussion on compliance, tax, laws, and the payroll. So it surely made us, at least to me, to go back and jog my memory and work with my team a little bit. And thanks a lot for Nikita and Chitbanu to kind of put us through this. Okay, coming back to the question, right? Surely, any organization, especially today, large, small, or the super large companies which has lakhs together of employees, it's extremely important that we have compliance towards tax laws and also which is assimilated with payroll process, right? Why is it so complicated? When I tell this line, it's pretty complicated. The tax, the laws, all of these are a little bit complicated to a common man and maybe even for HR folks. Let's decode a couple of reasons why I call it a little bit of complication is one is for sure these laws, right? The compliances and the tax laws. It's ever changing. It is not something which is fixed and okay, every year we just take it up and we go on with it. It's very fluid and very dynamic, and we need to be updated with the taxes whichever happens across the year. The second reason is it is not similar in all the regions. When I tell region, it can be very different in India and absolutely it's a 360-degree different in UK or maybe in Africa or in America, especially companies which has multiple space in globe, right? And also we'll need to keep a record book, very strong record book of payroll, where how much a person has actually taken his CTC, how much is the take home, what is the tax an employee has paid. And we also need to have an updation of softwares, use of technology, right? There are and legal people and tax people, internal and external, a regular audit. So overall with all these things, right, it looks very easy when we tell payroll process. We all get our salaries on 1st of every month, and we just think, okay, there are a bunch of people who are just sitting and working on this. But a small mistake, right, a very minute mistake can cause one of the biggest satisfactory issue in any employee. So it is a complicated topic by itself, and it requires a lot of thought into it. So these are few issues which I was thinking probably will help us to understand what is this big deal about payroll and the process and the tax compliance and other things. Coming to the main question, what you asked, at Subex, we being a public limited company, right, there is a zero tolerance on any kind of non-adherence towards the tax, towards the regulation and other things. So what we are presently doing is first thing is we are doing a strong internal audits. And these internal audits we take very seriously, and we do it every month on month. And whatever are the findings, we make sure that we give timelines, strong timelines, and we have to go back and fix those things. That is one thing. Second thing is there's a training program which happens regularly to our payroll team and HR team, right? What happens with this is we get to know what are the new taxations, which are the new laws, what are things going around, right? So that gets updated to us. We also have invested time and again on a lot of softwares, right, which we are assimilating into our payroll, so that we know what are the new things which are happening and how we need to get updated. And having a very strong internal legal and tax team, we also have consultants who come and take care of it. So to coming to the point, what you were telling, just before us, we've also made sure that we have decentralized the entire payroll system. So we have multiple locations. It's just not in India. So we've decentralized. With all these things, I surely don't believe that any one of us are happy with the payroll system, because it's ever evolving, right? It's a change, is a constant thing. So probably, yeah, with the kind of report what you have sent, it will be a lot of useful things for us to carry forward.
Definitely.
Thanks a lot.
Definitely. Thanks for sharing those insights with us. And I think what came out is that updation is something which is very important, not only of your knowledge, but also of your current payroll system. With that in mind, we are going to the next segment, which is on employee experience. And to answer the question, we have with us Ms. Maya John, who is the Chief People Officer from WERS. Now we all know that employee experience is the heart of all HR solutions. And do you think that the payroll process, which is mainly considered to be an internal process, can also be a kind of a delight factor for the employee experience? Your thoughts on that, please.
Sure. So you had sent all of us tough questions. So it was good food for thought. I think where the payroll piece comes into any of our lives is what is our wealth, right? We are in a particular company. What was our wealth status at the beginning of that journey? Where are we now? And what is our potential to earn, going forward? So I think payroll, while it's looked at as a very mundane, probably process in an employee's life, I really feel it can have that upside, because it can be the gateway to give you a glimpse of what is the wealth you have created, whether it's in your comp, whether it's in your variables, whether it's in your ESOPs, whether it's in your benefits. And so, where I'm from, so Versailles, we do look at it as an indicator of wealth creation, and also a trigger for probably more goals that you want to put for wealth aspiration. So that's, number one. I think number two is, it's payroll generally is a very reactive process, right? So you're supposed to get paid so much. It either comes that way or there's some error with it. And then, it goes into other spins. So I think any payroll process or interface, if it has that proactive part to it. So for example, like halfway through the month, can I know that, hey, how much have I earned? And what can I look forward to for the remaining part of the month, or something like that? I think it has a lot of potential to be, motivators, through the month as well, or through the year. So I think moving away from reactionary piece to a more proactive part is the second. And third point I wanted to add is the whole tax piece. It's complicated, it's boring, it's, like for a regular employee, they just don't want to get into it. But we are citizens of India, tax needs to get paid depending on where we are, which state, and all of that. So I think if we can do more to simplify our tax responsibilities and make it so that, okay, we understand that, this is how tax works, and this is what we get in hand, and this is what we don't. I think that's also another opportunity for employee experience, kind of demystify or decomplicate the whole taxation part.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, if I may just for
please,
quick 10
please, go
seconds,
ahead. Yeah.
Maya, just building on your point, one of the unique things about taking Razorpay's payroll product as an example, one of our companies who uses it, they went through a fundraise, and next day morning when all of them logged in and some of them, opened up the payroll tool, and there was a wish on behalf of Razorpay that we are extremely delighted with your fundraise, onwards and upwards, and Razorpay is a partner in the growth. It just wowed them, right? And the dimensions to which a payroll product can really enhance employee experience, I think, has no limits. And this is just an example, right? No one would have thought about it. It's nowhere written in the payroll rule books that you got to congratulate your employees on a certain milestone. That's just not payroll-ish, right? But then when you look at it from an employee delight lens, it's an integral part, and suddenly the whole concept changes.
Very interesting. Thanks.
Sure. And do you feel that if you have a great employee experience, you can create a wonderful customer experience as well? Do you agree with this?
No, absolutely. I think all of us, we have our day jobs and we do those jobs for a reason, right? We are serving a client or a customer or a segment of the market. And especially like if you're in a startup, then you're in India, you're doing something for your country, right? To move the needle. So absolutely. I mean, it does translate.
It does
payroll
translate.
Wealth is one of the things. There's many, many other aspects, but it all adds up.
Exactly, exactly. And it definitely impacts your ROI in the long run, definitely. One question for the audience who are connected for the webcast is your payroll management reactive or proactive? Maybe you can give your responses in the chat window. And as we move to the next segment, which is a very interesting segment, because now we're going to talk about the automation in the payroll management process. And to take this forward, I would like to ask the next question to Romita Mukherjee, who is the global HR head of Whatfix. Now, Romita, as you know that, one of the key growth drivers for increasing automation in HR processes is definitely something which kind of streamlines operations. It reduces manual efforts and it enhances the overall efficiency. But historically, payroll has been a department which is seen very much, averse to embracing change. You'll even hear some kind of responses. We have always done it that way. And they are very, very much resistant to change. They are still very, very comfortable in using manual processes, out of date processes. So, how has been your experience in driving automation in your organization? And maybe some points as to what other organizations can do to take on this payroll management journey effectively.
I think this is a very, very interesting topic for the fact that we very recently closed the audit process for our company, and then I can relate to how the change can actually create a lot of challenges for the team. Now, at the same time, I'll bring a reference to a startup world which possibly operates in a very different way when there are 100 or a 200 member team, and when you actually grow to 1000 2000 people, your processes are bound to change. You need to operate with a high amount of agility. You need to understand, okay, what is working, what is not working for you, and understand that if you're not revisiting on your processes on time, the scalability will remain a challenge for the company. So one aspect which I felt is traditionally a challenge in most of the payroll teams is working in an Excel or Google Sheet has always been a very go-to aspect. Even though you have a payroll process, you have a payroll team, you have an outsourcing team, the team is very comfortable managing it on an Excel or a Google Sheet. But what happens actually as part of that process is you don't realize that, especially in the world of startup, there are multiple changes that we all come across during the year, in the merit cycle, or during the payment of commissions, or looking at any kind of an incentive program or a SPIF program, and all these are disintegrated. So all these commissions calculations, all these kind of incentive calculations are all in different spaces. Now, if your payroll process is not intelligent enough to pick up all this, it becomes a challenge. Now, another aspect of automation is the answer to this challenge is when you try and look at the processes which is taking like a lot of time for you and look at possibilities of automating it, you are likely to be more proactive as a team to drive what the previous topic was, which is employee experience. Now, automation is not easy. You have to find out actually exactly where you have the maximum challenge, where are the errors, where exactly you need to focus on, and where you have multiple hands operating the same data, right? When you have a maker and a checker concept, you are in a best position to drive automations. Else, it can possibly lead to a lot of other challenges as well for the company. Now, I'll bring another aspect of when you have multiple systems in any company, and I'm sure every company has multiple systems to do the same thing. Current payroll systems are not meant to act on all different possibilities of payouts that happens to an employee. And this is also not limited to just HR and finance team. This is also extended to the operations team within the businesses as well. So how do you then integrate these teams together, these processes together, and automate the process and bring efficiency is the biggest challenge for most companies. So the way we have dealt with, in fact, is we looked at traditionally where exactly we find maximum effort going into managing manual data and uploading, data record keeping and data uploading. And we realized that those are simple things. We don't have to worry about updating multiple pieces. We have various simple systems which can help you to link most of the systems and update the data on a real-time basis, and have a very solid system of audit, especially the internal audit. One has to at least create a rigor within the system that you have. Non-related set of people also from the legal team or the HR team or the finance team who are not managing the payroll, of course, should be ideally doing those audits. The reason is very simple. If you are managing this with a set of people who are possibly managing the process on a daily basis, it's very likely that you will not be able to catch those errors, right? So the way we have managed is we looked at least reducing 10 different processes that you have to at least 2 different processes or 3 different processes, and bringing efficiency by reducing time, effort, number of days to process it.
Great. I think what you said in the beginning, Asha, about decentralizing the entire process, that is exactly what the same thought is coming around. I think one food for thought for the participants who have connected over the webcast is that you need to identify people who are not directly associated with your payroll and ask them to be a part of the audit process. I think that is one way in which you can navigate the change or the so-called automation journey more effectively.
At the same time, they have to be the set of people who have access to the data. You cannot
Exactly.
give the data to anyone. So yes, you need to ensure that you have the right set of eye looking at it, and you have the right rigor to audit the data.
Correct.
It's extremely important. And I think another aspect which can help you to also comply with the changing and the ever-evolving laws and regulations is staying updated. So currently there is no payroll management system which actually triggers you proactively to ensure that here is the change. Like the way you said, there's an announcement in the funding part. There has to be a proactive approach from the payroll system also to look at what are the changes that you are experiencing on a day-on-day basis. These changes are not very frequent, of course, but in a year or a 6 months basis, you will actually come across these changes. It's very rare that you see a payroll management system would actually come and give you that update that, okay, here is what you are supposed to comply. Here are the set of people who are going to be affected with this. Act on it.
Right.
Very, very few systems do that proactively.
I'll come back to you on this, please. Is Razorpay having that kind of a feature wherein that trigger comes to the organization that there is a change that is happening maybe in the laws or any kind of bylaws which is going to affect the payroll management?
See, it depends on the context, right? In cases where we want a certain target audience to be aware of a certain change, then that communication goes and systems are equipped to do that. But the real element of delight to me would be where they don't need to know. The rigor of a product is where the product has everything built in, handles every element of complexity, but to the end user it is simple. It is super simple.
Brilliant point.
So the end user doesn't really need to know that there is a change. The change as much as possible should be handled from the back end. Again, coming back to the Razorpay X product, the magic about the tool, and I would welcome my friends to use it sometime, is it, and again, connecting to Romita's point, for a startup where you are anyways, you're growing 100x year on year, there are n number of complexities that you have to manage. Employee delight is very dear to you, but yet you may not want to go through the rigmarole of complexities of a product. So here enters a product which is built by a startup, built by a company in India for India, and it says to your end employee, it's as simple as any other product that you interact with. So that has always been the objective. I'm very confident that that's the experience our tool also provides.
Brilliant, brilliant. I'll come to you now, Anu, because the last segment of the discussion revolves around the concept of agility. And in a rapidly evolving business environment with complex business structures, complex salary structures, businesses, be it for employees, be it for contract labor, be it for interns, be it for freelancers, everything is going, haywire, and there are a lot of changes. So how does your organization, Perfuse, it is allowing, or rather it is creating an environment wherein the payroll professionals, they can stay agile and they can stay up to date, what you were saying at the beginning. Maybe your thoughts around that, please.
So how we're doing it right now is mostly all the teams coming together, discussing, making sure that everybody is aligned on the different needs. So like say the finance needs of accounting, legal teams need of compliance, everybody is coming together. How I would like it to be, on the other hand, is say a system or technology that drives some of these aspects. So payroll is one of those areas where you have to be right 100% of the time. You have to be on time 100% of the time. You don't have an option. As in-
Rather before time.
that would be
Sometimes.
awesome, employee experience.
yes.
But imagine a situation wherein you're delayed in terms of your payroll by even one day. The number of issues that you will get, employee concerns that you'll get, it all obviously sends a very wrong message. So it's a very, very important process for, it's a very important, critical, a tangible benefit of working that comes to you at the end of the month, every month. So you have to get it right. Accounting processes, your whole P&L, a lot of it depends on that also, to getting it right. Compliance also, very important to get it right. While all of these are very, very important to payroll, at the end of the day, how much time do we want to spend on it as, say, the HR team itself? Not much. We actually don't. We just do the checks and that's it. And today, technology is available to support us in terms of some of these processes. And I think it's time for us to proactively adopt this technology. What can be done by a machine should be done by a machine rather than a human being. It allows better accuracy on time, as well as the compliant processes, checks can be put into place. So absolutely agree, as in a good tech-enabled product is obviously the need of the hour.
Brilliant, brilliant. Would like to hear from you as well in your organization. How do you create an environment wherein the payroll professionals can stay agile and up to date? What you were saying in the beginning, Shah.
Yeah, there is, first thing is like, the audit itself will actually give a strong vigilant feeling to the entire payroll process and the people involved in that, and also the HR folks, right? There's a good coordination between these two people and the back end, the operation also. And that is something which we are looking at, and also the training. Month on month, there is training which goes on, to make sure, especially because ours is a global company, it becomes a little more complicated, right? Whatever is in India is absolutely different in UK or my North America or in, in Africa. So, making sure that we've decentralized and making sure training, audits, these are few things which actually is keeping it pretty agile, and also making sure that they're updated. And even a small thing, as Anu told, right? A small mistake looks very simple, easy, but a small, simple mistake can actually create a roars. And the employees can be very, very upset about it. So bringing that together and making it agile is a big deal. And technology is the forerunner for this. Absolutely agree with that.
Definitely, definitely. Would like to hear from you some, comments about the recent changes or trends that you have observed in the payroll management. Maybe you can share your thoughts on that.
For me?
Yeah, for both of you. One of you can start.
Okay. Some of the recent changes or maybe the trends that I can talk to you is an aspect of educating our employees, specifically employees, and especially the demographics, which is very young. They don't want to take too much of time to understand how their payslips looks like. If you ask me honestly, most of you, I don't know how many of you relate to it, but how many of you go at the month end and check your payslips? Very few hands, right? Very few hands. And they don't even understand at times that it is important for me to go and check, am I getting what I'm supposed to get? And if there is an error, or if there is something which I'm supposed to get and I have not got, am I vigilant enough to go and check that? I think this is a very, very important aspect. All of us are working so hard towards what Maya said, creating wealth. And if you're not going and checking how is it being paid and processed every time? So how do we bring a system
To that?
Yeah.
Actually, that's where trust comes in.
Yeah.
Know that, okay, you'll get it right.
Yeah,
So we're
but-
like relying on that trust.
Absolutely.
That, yes, my money will be right.
Correct. But many a times what happens is, even though the process is absolutely accurate, many of them don't even understand how is this being paid on a month-on-month basis. Many of them don't even know that I'm supposed to actually get it on a quarterly basis instead of monthly basis, right? Like for example, as simple as commissions. Many people don't read their offer letter. So how do you actually create a system, a proactive system in place which tells you that here is what your components are. This is how you're going to be paid. This is how your payments are being happening. Are there any particular observations? So some of the systems that I witness actually outside of India, of course, are not specifically in India at the moment, but outside of India, I see those are being looked at now. And you will get proactive alerts as an employee or as an employer that here are the few things that you must know which is upcoming.
Right, right.
So I think it's extremely important for an
And you
employer
feel
to.
communication is the key, because be it proactive communication, be it on-time communication, I think communication holds the key for an effective payroll management system.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
Wonderful.
on that note, if I may add, wouldn't it be nice, I don't know if I'm letting the cat out of the bag, Ayush, I'm sorry, but wouldn't it be nice if all these important updates, alerts, rather than me having to go and log into the payroll tool, would come to me, say on WhatsApp?
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Any guesses, any company in India which is trying to do that?
It's razor pay.
Well, I don't know, but it would be nice. I think if someone would have that functionality, I would call it a super awesome product.
So participants in the webcast, I think there is some information for you over here to take note of. So thank you for bringing that up. I would now request the participants who have the screen access to please scan the QR code to take up the payroll maturity assessment. And on behalf of RazorPayX, I would like to thank you, all of you, for your wonderful thoughts and insights. And now I'll be handing it over to Mr. Kaushal Sangvi, who is the head of product at RazorPayX, for the next segment. So a big round of applause for the panel members, please.
Move down.
Mr. Kaushal Sangvi, the stage is all yours. We're just setting the stage for Mr. Kaushal to come, so bear with us for 1 minute.
Hey folks, thanks so much all the panelists once again. Very, very interesting. For a product person, I think there's about 3 pages of notes that we've taken. So, lots for us that we've already built that we must make sure we talk to our customers about, but also lots for us still to build out. So, we're looking forward to spending a lot more time with all of you all. I think I just want to take a little bit, we've been building payroll for a few years. We've been, payroll amongst RazorPay's product suite is one of the most loved products that we've had to date. And RazorPay has a pretty high love across all its products, but this one's done extremely well, especially amongst the emerging businesses, growing businesses. I think this is something that we've been very fortunate and have a really strong set of supporters that have been backing us so far. As these companies started growing up, right, and as they started reaching scale and going from 10, 15, 20 employees to 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 employees, we started hearing a lot more about the complexities that they're having to face, that they're having to, the challenges they're having to start solving for. Additionally, India's landscape, as we were all touching on earlier, has also been very rapidly evolving, right? And has been even more demanding of these larger organizations, right? And on the regulatory side, on the compliance side. I think these two things is what we started hearing a lot more about, and we started to actively look to solve for these organizations' problems. And today I'm very excited that we have now built out a brand new product stack only focused on enterprises, primarily to solve all of these problems that we've been hearing about from some of these largest organizations, right? I want to talk a little bit about just what those problems are, right? And what we've been excited to solve for, right? We touched on earlier, I think, that there are these three key learnings we had from our research, from talking to a lot of these large organizations, people, org heads, and they spoke about the enablers on the performance side, on the technical side, as well as how they work across the organization, right? We took these three learnings and made that the pillars on which we've built the product, right? And I'd love to talk about that, on how we have built an enterprise-grade product and how we've implemented this, right? So the first thing that we focused on, and I think Anu, you were touching on this earlier, right, is making sure that X payroll enables your product to be 100% automated, your entire payroll to be 100% automated on time. And this is not just for salaries. This also includes all your compliance payments, your compliance filings. And so what you can be rest assured is that your employees are going to have a great experience, but more importantly, your entire payroll process is something that's handled automatically by the system. I think that's something that we've been invested a lot in, making sure to make that happen, right? As we've looked to solve for these large organization problems. The other major thing that we've sort of focused on, right, is the compromises that we heard organizations having to make as they got larger, right? So several organizations, as they look to address some of these compliance issues that they started seeing, they started getting flags by auditors or even the internal audit reports that they were running, right? And they started realizing there are lots of scope for issues, manual errors, manual problems. They started realizing that we need to now start looking at how to solve for this. What we heard and saw from a lot of organizations, that they would then get lost because they would land up looking at having to move, while they're trying to solve their payroll problems and processes, they landed up having to also move their HRMS or their attendance systems, right? And they would get lost in this, and very often would actually have to make a compromise on the HRMS because they want to solve for the payroll problem. So our take on this has been a little different, has been that we want to enable companies to work and stick with the HRMS and the HR tech stack that already has been working for them, or they've already implemented. But what we'll do is we'll integrate with all of them. So today, X Payroll integrates with 40 plus of the leading HR tech systems out there today, both within India as well as a lot of the HR tech systems that are global HR tech systems that Indian companies implement. So we want to enable our customers to be able to stick with that, and we will adapt to the systems that work for them and make sure that we are able to integrate, and all of this information is seamlessly flowing between their systems that already work as well as the payroll system, instead of having to move three major change management at the same time. That's one major thing that we've wanted to do as we've taken our journey on solving and making sure organizations don't have to compromise on this one thing. The other major area that we've had to focus on is how organizations look to solve for the complexities as they get larger, right? So this has been, I think we spoke about how there are salary structures that get challenging. We spoke about how there are audit trails and logs that are challenging, right? All of this is now solved for with Razorpay X Payroll for Enterprise, especially making sure that we've taken Razorpay's own privacy guidelines that Razorpay as an org has always had to follow, right? And put that to practice for payroll as well, for one of the most sensitive pieces of data for an organization. And we're looking to make sure that all your data is 100% private, and there are detailed audit trails that track all changes that are happening for your payroll processes. This is something that we believe really makes a difference to organizations as they grow. They're able to keep track, make sure that there's no fraud happening. It gives them all the control they need as well, especially on how changes are happening, who's allowed to do what changes. So that's something that we've invested a lot in making happen. So with that, very excited that Razorpay X payroll is ready for enterprises and something that we're launching today. Thanks so much. Very excited. Sada, stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Kaushal. Wait, we'll not allow you to go so soon, Kaushal. You're supposed to come back and answer a few of the questions that have come on the webcast from our esteemed audience.
Absolutely.
One of the questions that the participant has asked specifically is on outliers. And when I talk about outliers, I'm referring to the attendance and to the leaves that employees take. How can it be integrated into the payroll software so that you do not have to do any manual intervention and take into consideration all these outliers? Maybe your thoughts around that, please.
Yeah, I think, so two different things that I think that question was about. One is about how outliers are flagged, I think, and how you are able to know that this is happening. That's something that today the Razorpay X system does. We have a fairly rich set of insights and reporting that enterprises land up using. The other bit, though, I think was also about making sure you get this data. And so today, with several attendance systems, and especially even more complex ones, when you have to deal with shifts and even half-an-hour breaks and all of these kinds of things that different industry segments have to worry about, we integrated all of those so that we gather all of this data, and then we're able to highlight all of this. Happy to sprinkle AI as is the flavor of the sort of season, on what powers some of these things. But the key bit to me really is that this information is available for the heads of the organization who need to track this, very easily, either via conversational or by having preset set of insights that we can set up for you, or that they can also set up for themselves, specifically around attendance, but also around a whole host of other things that the organization wants to track when it comes to the people and their activity, and so on. Right? So we can talk more about that.
Perfect. And what about reimbursements? Because one of the participants has also asked that in case if you want to integrate the process of getting your reimbursements approved, is there any probability that you can integrate it into your workflow?
Yes. So I think it was someone named Ankit who I saw this question from, and it was a little more, it was actually a more challenging question. It was great because these are definitely the kinds of things that we've heard and invested in. So two things on that front. Right? Firstly, obviously, reimbursements are possible via X payroll, and that's something that we power for thousands and large organizations, 4,000, 5,000 people today as well. The bit that I thought was the one that we've understood is challenging is as organizations grow, these policies, the rules around these get more and more complex, right? There is a very advanced workflow engine that does exist where you can set up, I think the question is not just L+1 have to approve, but you can set up different dimensions on which, and it was more amount focused, but there's actually a lot more that you can do. You can do based on department and amount, location, any host of information that you already track for employees, you can do it based on that, and then do it based on the rules that the company may have. You may have any number of levels, you may have groups of people. So it's a very powerful system on the workflows that we've enabled. This is not just for reimbursements as well. I'll take 30 seconds to put the plug in, but this applies to everything that's happening in the payroll process also, right? So this could be just salary changes. Who's allowed to do it? How much are you allowed to do it? When are you allowed to do it? Who needs to know? Who needs to approve? All of these things are things that you can do this for, how maybe someone's gotten an advance on their salary. Who is allowed to do that? And any aspect of these things, of what companies are doing via the payroll, via X payroll, are all possible to are very configurable and are workflow driven as well. So that's something that companies are able to do and track. The other bit that we'll touch on, because I know we spoke about how audit tends to be a big problem, is all of this is very detailed, tracked, and available, so that when the question comes, 6-9 months later, when an external auditor comes in, it's very easy for them to see exactly what was done, what rules were followed then, etc. as well, and who took action on any specific. They can drill into the most granular change made and say, tell me exactly how this happened, and they'll be able to see that whole trail of how that happened. So that's all actually possible via the
Perfect.
tool today.
And does that mean that when you have your annual increments, the system takes into cognizance of those changes as well? The performance management system increment that gets triggered out every year?
Yes, so we would integrate with performance management systems as well. And that's one important thing, so that information about increments and so on is in sync. There's one system of record. But the other bit that you asked was, do we keep track of increments? Is that correct?
Yes, year on
Yes.
year?
Yes, all of this information is tracked exactly. Again, who got how much. You can do insights on this, on keeping track of, looking at this at the end of the quarter, in the annual cycle, etc., where you make these increments. But you can also make sure that these increments are only done for the right people, with the right workflows in place, to make sure that there's no mistakes being made, but most importantly, that the right set of eyes have approved something happening, so that there's no, internal fraud happening as well, or obviously mistakes are being caught by people beforehand.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kaushal, for your insights on this. And ladies and gentlemen, we are now coming to the close of the webcast. I think the report is supposed to get distributed to the panel members, and I would once again request our esteemed panel members to please come on the stage to get a copy of the report, please. Louder, please. I think this is a very exciting moment for Razorpay X. Okay. So thank you once again. Thank you, audience, for your time. Thank you to the participants who have joined us through the webcast. Thank you so much, Razorpay X, for organizing this. And thank you, panel members, for sharing your insights with us. Thank you and have a lovely day ahead.